bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
You can ride your bike in the 12th annual Rock to Rock bike ride on Saturday, April 25th, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, while raising funds for more than 30 local environmental groups. You can ride across the city of New Haven or across the county in rides that are 5, 12, 20, 40, or 62 miles long. Experience the beauty of our parks, woods, and shoreline. Enjoy music and food at the Green Fair after the rides, and learn about the important work of participating groups. To register, visit rocktorock.org.
Good morning, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Thank you, Harry. So I'm in studio this morning. I told y'all yesterday I was going to have Alistair Neal here, the music director over at my favorite place in New Haven, Symphony Orchestra. And he brought Shah McAllister, who, I don't know, what do you do over there? Run the marketing department?
No, ma'am. I do development. I'm the development coordinator, and I help them with their community engagement.
Yay! And she is quite the community engager. So they're here today. We've been talking about this for quite some time, since Alistair came to town. And this was one of the feathers in his cap. We didn't really do a whole lot talking about it the last few times when you were just like touring, doing the tour of the city.
That's right.
And then when you took the gig, you came on and talked about the season. And then we talked about Black History Month and Women's History Month. And up comes Florence Price.
Yes, up comes Florence Price, a remarkable woman whose story is, I think, finally getting the attention that it's deserved for a long time.
Yes, hashtag make Florence famous.
Exactly.
So Florence Price was the first female African-American composer to have a symphonic work performed by a major symphony orchestra, the Chicago Symphony, in 1933. Florence and her compositions have been historically overlooked, of course, due to racial and gender inequity, depriving her and the world of the legacy she deserves. Her works are compared to, how do you say this, Dvorak?
Dvorak. Yeah.
As they both reference African-American folk music and share a romantic aesthetic. This concert will showcase the similarities in their sounds and will explore why a white male European has been praised throughout history for his take on American music, while Florence Price has been continually forgotten and omitted. So this concert is happening Thursday, March 5th at Woolsey Hall, 7:30. And there are still tickets to be had?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not all the way sold out yet, right?
Not all the way sold out.
Because I don't want to send people over there and they be like,
no, come see
mad
us.
at me.
And we will be doing it. We will have a string quartet, the Harmony Quartet, at the Stetson Library this Saturday. And we will be discussing insider versus outsider.
What does that mean?
Kind of more so like how Florence was left out of history, but she was an American composer, which kind of helped create that classical American sound. But Dvorak was someone who came over from Europe, and he's seen as helping found the American classical sound. So we're speaking about how folks can be in left in and out of history, and how we can change that narrative.
Okay. All right. So she's a very striking woman, and if you pick up the Inner City, there's some stuff on her. There's the ad in the last several editions, and then there'll be a bigger piece tomorrow in lead up to Thursday. So Alistair, how did you come to know Florence? Like, how did you stumble across this music?
So my lead-in was an article that was in the New York Times, I'm guessing around 3 years ago.
Mhm.
It was a fairly comprehensive article on her, and there was also another piece done in the New Yorker more recently than that, and that piqued my interest because it's an unusual story and somebody that I'd never heard of before. And that's how it got on my radar. So, and then of course I got the job in New Haven, and I was thinking, well, what do I want to do in my first season? And this seemed like a really good confluence of events. Yeah.
So when you heard her music, what did you think? What was your first reaction to it?
Well, the first reaction, this is remarkably beautiful, beautifully crafted and sincere music. I thought, and the first symphony, which is what we're playing, and that was the piece that was performed by the Chicago Symphony in 1933. I thought, this is a remarkable first symphony from this woman, and I thought I want to do it. I mean, it immediately spoke to me. The second movement, which is so beautiful, so noble, and stately, and profoundly affecting. And I thought, this is a voice that has effectively been silenced for so many years for the reasons you've already alluded to. It's time we heard from her.
Yes, and so you paired it with Dvorak.
Yeah,
because he has similar style.
Yes, I think you can.
Or he borrowed from the same genre of African undertones and
Yes.
that right?
Yeah.
Is that, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I'm not a musician, so I want to get the language right. So do you? So he's paired with this because similar approach to this music.
Yeah, you can see there's if you like, the musical DNA has quite a bit in common.
Okay.
She was trained when she moved from Arkansas. She trained at the New England Conservatory around the turn of the century, and as part of the academic curriculum there, if you were an aspiring composer, the model that you were taught was kind of late Romantic European symphonic models, the forms and the kind of the harmonies in general. That was what was taught. So you hear that in her music as well as Dvorak's. But of course, what makes her voice particularly unique is that she synthesized those elements with her heritage of African American music. Did you hear in the church? She was an organist, and so that was very important to her, as well as spirituals and rhythms. The third movement is Juba, West African dance, and so that's what makes it unique. And so while you can definitely detect the links between her and Dvorak, there's no question that the voice is her own at the same time.
So when you come across her music, how deep do you go in sort of digging through her work? Like, is there a large body of work to like pull from, or
there is a phenomenally large body of work
really?
that she's had. She has 2 symphonies, but her second symphony has been lost. But she wrote, her and Marian Anderson were good friends. So Anchored in the Souls, I want to say, Florence wrote it. And Marian continuously, regularly performed it. She has violin concertos, concerts, and hundreds of songs. It's just been hard. There's an archive, but it's hard to get to it.
Where is it archived? Like, is it at the Schomburg? Does somebody have it? Is it at A&T? Like, who has it?
I want to say
Howard?
The Chicago Music Association, because she was a member there when she moved from Arkansas to Chicago.
Okay. And so, what do we know about her family, her people, her education? Like, what's her story?
Her story, she grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and oddly enough, William Grant Still, who was an African-American composer who was left out of history as well. They grew up in the same neighborhood around the same time.
Wow, this is sounding like a Smokey Robinson and Aretha Franklin kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am. So they grew up around the same time, and she had her first violin recital at 4.
Wow.
And she composed her first work at 11.
So was she considered a prodigy? Do you consider her a prodigy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Her father was a dentist.
And these are black people.
These are black people.
Okay.
In Little Rock, Arkansas. And she was the only black dentist in Little Rock. And her mother was the secretary at the Loan and Trust company.
Okay.
So she came from a little bit of affluence. So she had the opportunity to go study. She studied at St. Mary's Convent for music. And then when she graduated valedictorian at 14. And then she went to the New England Conservatory.
What?
Yes.
So are there, I'm sure their relatives still alive.
I'm not sure, but more than likely she has to have some descendants.
Because I know she's enjoying a resurgence of her music, right? People are really, the New Yorker piece, the Times piece, sure they had to have tracked down somebody.
Hopefully. I haven't found any in my research, but I do know she had 2 daughters.
Oh, okay. So she was married.
Yes.
She would have been a married woman.
Yes.
Okay. All right. She had 2 daughters. Then after that, the story sort of disappears a little bit.
Sort of. While in Chicago, when she moved to Chicago, that's where she kind of was able to become famous. Because at the time, she was in Arkansas, I want to say, until about 1927, but lynchings and the racial tension had gotten too much to handle. So she moved, and that's kind of where her song, when she got to Chicago, her song started to become published.
So she did realize she was famous or renowned, or did she live long enough to know that?
She did. She was composing music up until the 1950s.
Okay.
And working.
And she's rolling around with Marian Anderson.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. They're compadres, which is interesting, and I'm sure it's a whole bunch of stories around that, because Marian Anderson has earned her place in history, and being friends with Mrs. Roosevelt. So there's that's an interesting time.
It is. On Saturday, we'll have a lot of background about her posted, and it'll be a lot in our talk. Because this is Black excellence we're speaking about, and now it's coming to the forefront. Yes. And I love that,
I always tell people Black women are the bridge between Black History Month and Women's History Month. So this is a nice bridge for that. So Asta, when you bring this work to the orchestra, did anybody in the orchestra know any of this work? Had they heard of her either?
A couple of them had played. I think one of our violinists had maybe played a string quartet, but nobody, to my knowledge, has played the symphony before.
Okay.
So they're starting out from scratch, creating, as I am, trying to create an interpretation and bring it off the page.
And so when they hear this music, they say, Elson, we've never heard this before. This is quite beautiful. Black woman? Do you get some of that?
No, none of that. But they did. I've had a lot of comments saying essentially, who knew? I had no idea that this music existed, and it's wonderful, and I'm so glad we're doing it. And that's very genuine, and I feel the same thing.
Wow. Yeah. So, all right. So you've had rehearsals. How much rehearsal goes into this?
So we had a 2.5-hour rehearsal on Sunday. 2.5 hours last night.
That's the concert. That's the whole concert, isn't it?
Yeah. But you have to start and stop a lot to rehearse. So we did a full rehearsal on Sunday, most of last night also, and then we'll have the Dvorak I rehearsed tonight, and then the whole program of the dress rehearsal on Wednesday, and then the concert on Thursday.
Wow. So will you be ready for this?
Most definitely.
Because this has been personal. It's your job, of course, but it's been a little personal.
It has. I've sensed that as I've been studying this, and I spent a lot of time in the company of the score. That's the text. That's what we read from and interpret. And it's been an interesting voyage for me because I'm tasked with bringing the notes off the page, but interpreting also means trying to sort out a lot of the signals. And in this case, there isn't a performance tradition, right? That, for instance, there will be with the Dvorak cello concerto. The people in the orchestra have played it hundreds of times collectively, more than that. But we're starting from scratch with Price, and I had to do a lot of work behind the scenes, editing some of the score.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there are a lot of mistakes in the score that's been handed down. Even though it's supposedly a revised edition, there are misprints. So, like, there's an F sharp where there should be an F natural, and I have to troubleshoot that in advance. Otherwise, you lose a lot of time.
So now, how do you do that? Do you go and listen to some other orchestras' version?
There is
performance?
One on YouTube. Yes, there is another. There's a recording that's been made on YouTube. I mean, it's not. It happens to be on YouTube, but and that is a useful form of reference, but it doesn't answer all of the questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the most important thing I have to do as a conductor is make sure that the right things are being heard, so that what qualifies as melody and what qualifies as accompaniment are clearly defined.
So every conductor who will take this on will have to do this?
Well,
or
yeah.
kind of figure out how to
figure it out, yeah.
You know.
Because
like they don't call you up and say, you know, Alistair, so how did you do this?
Right, exactly. There should be more of a network of conductors, because I could certainly say, well, you know, here's what I did with this dynamic here, because they're not always. Well, you do this with Dvorak as well. There are misjudgments. So you can put them down on paper, but you really have to experience it in the flesh to understand what is loud and what is soft. And so I've made a lot of changes in the score, so that what she's put down really is heard to the best advantage. And it's a very interesting decision. And also quite how fast is the fast, how slow are the slows, when you slow down. Do you always slow down or speed up where it says in the score, or are there other places that you can maybe incorporate into that? So there are a lot of decisions that have to be made in advance of the first rehearsal. And even then, as much preparation as I did, there were a number of things that I really needed to adjust on the fly. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Wow. So Shah, when you as as someone who works in development, you're giving this project to engage the community. Is it easier or harder because this is a woman and a woman of color? Did you find it what like when they said, listen, this is what we're gonna do. This is who we're working with. And then you have to go and research, and like, what's your process to get this to the community?
So my process, I actually encouraged that we did have a program about.
Get closer to the mic.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I encourage that we did have a program because it's important. This is something, a woman who has been left out of history. And as I do a lot of community justice work and community events. So it's important to me that if a symphony is doing Black excellence, that the community should be engaged in it, and that we're getting the info about it. So my history, my preparation, I dived in like I was doing a term paper. I have note cards about Florence. I have a DVD. I had to go find a DVD.
There's all kinds of stuff like that?
Yes.
Wow.
She has a documentary. I've been reading things, which has led me to, from her, I went to William Grant Still, then Samuel Coleridge Taylor, other Black composers and musicians. So for me, it's to bridge the gap.
Okay.
So that this isn't, it won't be new news from here on out. It should be up there with, as all the
other greats, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So you bring this to the community, and what's the community's vibe? Like, what have you heard so far?
Folks are excited. I spoke to, when I first brought it to Miss Diane over at the Stetson.
Oh, of course, over there at the Stetson. That's our Schomburg over there.
Yes, ma'am. And she was like, we have to do this. She was like, I got you. We're going to make this happen, and we're going to have folks come. The string quartet, they're going to do,
I've heard them because they tour around.
Yes, ma'am, when they're in town.
Yes, I've caught them last year when they were touring around.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to do the Florence piece, then we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And I have notes prepared about, okay, so what did you hear? What sounds familiar? That'll be handouts about the history of her. And then they'll play the Dvorak piece. And then after they finish that, okay, let's compare or contrast. Are there similarities? Do you hear the spirituals in it? Do you hear the folklore sound? Okay. And then they'll do the Samuel Coleridge Taylor piece. He's another Black composer. And then at the end, we're going to get into, okay, this music is great. They were both great. Despite how everything happened, how can we change this? How have folks been left out of history before? Have you ever been left out of history?
You sound like Wynton Marsalis with jazz. Like he has that same sort of energy around making sure that jazz is not lost and that its roots remains as true as it was then now. And so, I mean, I guess we need people who are about looking for and showcasing these unsung talents.
Definitely, because if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important as we try and move towards different things. And just, it's frustrating that it's beautiful that we're doing this, but it's frustrating that this is kind of like we're now making Florence famous. She was famous before, but this shouldn't be as new as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So my job is to bridge that gap and to make sure that anybody that we do, that they're known and that their history is brought to them.
So, okay, so there's the hashtag Make Florence Famous, which I'm excited about. And then you have a young man, Oliver Herbert, who'll be playing the Dvorak music. He's a cellist.
He is.
Yes.
Yes.
And we were talking about him before we came on air, how you knew him before he even knew who he was.
That's right. He's all of 22 now. I think he's just graduated from conservatory, but is an incredible young talent.
Mhm.
I've actually known him, as I was saying off the air, since he was 3. His parents played in the summer music festival that I do up in Idaho, and he would sit at rehearsals on his own when his parents played in the orchestra, and at age 3 listen to a 2.5-hour rehearsal, absolutely wrapped in attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, just in the back of my mind, I thought, that's an unusual little kid there. And
So
here we are.
So he's playing, and is he excited?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the first time he'll actually be playing this piece in public,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the most famous cello concerto of them all. And so I'm feel very honored in a way and excited to be working with him on this wonderful music.
And you know him. I mean, you know
Yeah.
his people, his family.
Yep.
So he's in good hands.
Yeah.
So there's got to be comforting on his self for that.
And we've worked together before. We did the Elgar Cello Concerto last season in Marin.
Mhm.
So we worked together as a team before. And
Oh, okay.
It's a good partnership.
Yay. So I'm excited about him. So there's a couple of pre-concert things that's happening, right? You have, because I saw there's a 30-minute prelude pre-concert talk led by the Harmony Fellow and cellist arranger Kelsey Vanderwall
Yeah.
at Sudler Hall, which I might sit in on that too. I'm gonna get this music in this week, let me tell you.
It's good. She's excited about it. This is her first pre-concert talk, and she's going to get into like the history of the piece and speak from her experience as a Black musician in classical music,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of compare and contrast to Florence, and also, break down the music and how she feels playing it and what it means to her.
Oh,
And
that's interesting. I would look forward to hearing that.
I think it would be a really good perspective.
Yeah, I love that. That gives you a heads up before the concert, so you walk in with some underground knowledge,
Kind of like
right?
a sneak peek.
Yeah, a little sneak peek. I like that. So, and do you get to work with her too, or?
No, I'm afraid not. It just the two things. I have to leave most of my regret right after the concert to get back to California
Mhm.
to conduct.
Oh my gosh!
No, it's the way.
You know that rock star
No, I wouldn't go
conductor
that
life.
far.
All right, so when you choose this music, when you showed up, Alistair, did they say, or did you say Florence Price, and then you sort of figure out the pieces that you want? I know this is a famous piece, the one that you're presenting tonight, but there's a whole bunch you could have picked
Yes.
from. Like you could have said this, and that.
Yeah. So I chose the symphony because of its landmark status. That was the piece that the Chicago Symphony played. It's the first piece done by a major orchestra by an African American woman, and I think it's a sort of a historical marker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful piece.
Okay.
So that's also very important. But you're right, there are other pieces of hers, and we are going to be playing one of her pieces next season also.
Oh, really?
Yep, Ethiopia's Shadow in America.
Wow.
It's about a 15-minute tone poem,
Mhm.
3 parts. Because I think it's very important that this not just be like a showcase and then we just move on and don't do anything else. I think follow through is really important to
Mhm.
show that
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's a voice that needs to be heard, and not just the one time.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
So she is with you for a good period of time.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to do the symphony in other places as well.
So you're not leaving this. You're just like, you know what? Listen, I want to.
No, it's part of who I am now. I think really sort of it feels like I've absorbed it underneath my skin. And I just, as I've been studying it and starting to rehearse it, it just makes me want it to do it more often and be an advocate.
So when you're up there, Alistair, and you're in the midst of this concert, can you hear the concert, or are you still listening for critique, or like, is your work done by the time you get up there?
It's a really good question. I mean, a very important part of my work is done by the time we get up there in performance, but I'm listening. You have to listen as a conductor in 2 or 3 ways. You have to react to what has just been played, and you have to anticipate what's about to be played. So you're processing the sound that goes straight through you and out, but that you have to judge what's about to happen as well as what is happening and what has just happened. So it's a little, I don't know, that's not a terribly good explanation, but you just have to be in the moment and concentrate really, really hard.
Because I'm wondering, by the time you're up there, there's not a whole lot you can change in the moment. Or can you? You
can. With a great orchestra like New Haven Symphony, they are a wonderfully finely tuned instrument. They're very, very sensitive, and then they can react to the slightest little nuance or difference. Now, having said that, I don't throw them curved balls.
Okay.
It's like the Hippocratic Oath in the concert. First, do no harm. So they will understand. They would, they'll respond, but you can't just set about a concert in a completely different tempo or different interpretation than you did in rehearsal. That would just be irresponsible. But you'll be surprised at just how much flexibility there is within the boundaries.
Okay. And so do the musicians, they hear a piece of music they're not familiar with or they don't know, does this excite them to go and learn further about this piece of music? Do you get that sense about orchestral musicians?
I think so. I mean, as I said, a number of them have come up to me unprompted and said, "This has been such a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for doing it." And I just didn't know. And I would guess that musicians, being curious people that they are, they would be inspired to check out some more for music.
And so, what do you hope the audience will walk away from this on Thursday? What's the hope?
What do you think, Shah? I mean, I have a thought, but
my thought that they feel moved, and that they feel that you want to follow up with it. That it's not just something that you heard and it was great, but that is something that you take with you when you go home, and that you listen to it on your own. And that I hope it encourages people to dive into classical music, because there are so many Black and brown folks in classical music. So I hope that this ignites.
There's a whole African American classical thing that happens every year, I think in South Carolina, and what is it called? Classical music of color or something. It's a wonderful thing that I've been wanting to go for years and years. I think they do it in Charleston.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but I know what you're talking about. Yes, ma'am.
I've been wanting to go to that, and now I think they've been doing it in D.C. I think or Virginia or somewhere. So I've been wanting to, where they bring all these African American classical musicians together for a week thing, and then they play all this beautiful music.
And that's powerful, given the location of where this is happening.
Well, yes, and Charleston is a rich historic city. So the fact that they do it there is a beautiful thing. So, but it escapes me the name of this whole event. So you want people to sort of walk away feeling like classical music is for them, that it is attainable,
right,
and not out of reach. I think
not.
it has historically, I think it has been out of reach for people.
For sure. I hope that this will, it will inspire people. And maybe there's a young person in the orchestra, in the audience, that hears this piece and thinks, wow, this is something I can aspire to. This is probably, I think there's a lot of people, I'm sure, during Miss Price's lifetime that would say that's not for you, or you can't do that. And
I'm sure she would said it. Yeah. Said to her.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Playing at 4.
Yeah, but she obviously had a deep inner conviction and drive to write this music, and nothing could stop her. And I think that should be the message. Nothing can stop you if you have the inner drive. You can do this.
So there's a whole component to this evening. People can go have dinner at Union League.
Yes, ma'am.
Right before the concert. And Union League is a French restaurant, very swanky, beautiful place. I haven't been up there in a good while, but the times that I've gone up there, I've always been impressed with the decor and the level of service.
And tickets are selling fast for that.
Yeah.
So if folks do want to come to the Symphony Supper and fellowship with us at Union League, I would encourage you
to get
your
online
tickets now. They are $45.
I can't help you beyond that. And that's a nice price for. So that includes your dinner, and then what else? And then your ticket is separate?
Appetizer, your dinner, your dessert. Yeah, your ticket is separate, but it's within walking distance.
Yeah, the weather has been wonderful.
Yeah, it should be nice. It's similar to this.
Yes.
How today is.
Oh, so that'll be nice. So people can have dinner, drink a little bit too much wine, then stroll to Woosley Hall and feel really, satisfied. And then have a night out. That's a wonderful date night.
Definitely.
That's a good date night.
Spend the evening at the Symphony.
That's right. That's a good date night. I'm just trying to throw it out there for the marketing folks. Go to the Symphony on a date. So why #make Florence famous? How did that come about?
It came through our marketing director because she felt, Katie, who she felt very strongly that Florence isn't as famous as she should be. And that if we're doing this music, we have a responsibility to help push that forward, help push that narrative forward, that this is a wonderful composer, this is a phenomenal woman, and that she should be known, as we know the Marian Andersons, and we know, as you know, your Martin Luther Kings, your MLK, and your Rosa Parks, and your Stokely Carmichaels, that this should be in your repertoire of Black history.
Yes. So what's next after this? Is this the end? No, this is not the end of the season, right? You're just like in the throes of it.
We have 2 more classical series concerts and at least 1 more Pops concert.
I know the Pops that you're doing the
Judy Garland.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I saw the one on. Is it the Beatles, the White Album?
Yeah, that was over the weekend.
Oh, I missed it.
Yes.
Oh, darn it. I wanted to see. I've been sick, so I try to catch all the Pops things because I just find them. You just don't ever get to hear that big sound.
Right, and Chelsea's great.
Yes, and I've had him on, and so yes, so I enjoy his take on these big numbers. So, all right, so the next one would be Judy Garland.
Yeah, is that before?
Who was enjoying a nice
she is
resurgence at the moment.
Yeah, I can't remember whether the classical one with the Brahms is.
I think Brahms is before Judy.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that comes up next.
Yes.
When I think of Brahms, I think of Lullabies.
Yeah.
Am I right to think that way?
That's probably his most famous piece.
Okay, because that's what I would know. And playing it for my children, they were very little, and it's quite soothing at bath time and the whole kind of. So that's how I know it. I even listen to it myself when I'm, Spotify. Brahms, lullabies.
It's good, calm music.
Yes.
If you want to get like a good, not soulful energy, but a good chill energy. Yes. Like if you're winding down.
Well, they said that classical music is good for if you're studying. Like, because my daughter did a paper on it, and she said, I had no idea. So now, because she's in college now, she has classical music that she likes that she'll play while she studies. I was like,
because it's connected to the brain waves. There's science behind it. I'm not too familiar with it, but it does help.
Now, are you a musician, Sha?
No, ma'am.
And what's your connect? Like, how did you come to this work?
So I came into this work. I tell
because you seem quite knowledgeable.
I tell it was the grace of God, to be honest with you. So I'm from New Jersey. I'm from Newark, Irvington, New Jersey.
Okay.
And previously, before I came to the Symphony, I was a banker, and
I know. I was just like, I didn't even know that.
And I was on my way. I was on my way back home to help take care of my family, but the Lord wouldn't let me leave. He was like, I can't let you go. It's something you have to do. So I had recently applied for the Symphony in March. I joined them. I joined
because you just wanted to change.
Yeah, banking wasn't for me. Like, I'm very much a social person. Like, everything I do is for the people. I have a very strong duty to my community and my people. So me working through, I have to be able to do that. I can't just be clocking in 9 to 5, meeting credit card goals and quotas. And that's fine for those who are into that. But for me personally, it has to be something deeper. So when the opportunity presented itself, it was like out of nowhere in a sense. And I was like, okay, this was for me. And
so you saw an ad for a New Haven job because you were in New Jersey.
No, I've been in New Haven.
Oh, you've been in New Haven.
I came to New Haven in 2014. I went to Albertus Magnus.
Okay. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. All right. And so you saw that opportunity, and so you just said, "Well, kudos to the NHSO to take a chance."
Definitely, and it's been, out of all the places I've worked in my day. I'm 23, so my days haven't been too long, but they're great people, and they're all committed to their jobs. Everyone is willing to help. I've learned so much from being there. I'm not limited just to development. I can help with education, operations, house managing. Elaine has been great in showing me her role as an executive director and putting me in different situations and showing me how to maneuver this world of arts administration.
That's, you know what? Arts administration, Alistair, is a big deal right now.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't just be talented. You have to know something about how to manage this in this land, arts world.
Yeah, and I just want to underscore what Shah was saying about the administration. The staff at the New Haven Symphony are just phenomenal, incredibly dedicated, passionate, believing 100% in what we're all doing, and it's such a great team. And Shah is the perfect example of that.
Yes. So you take this job, you jump in, you're learning about classical music. So had you known anything about classical music? I mean, the symphony is all about classical music.
I didn't know much, to be honest with you. Like, I call myself a hip hop scholar because I've been doing a lot of studying of our Black music. So I grew up listening to Gladys Knight and the Temptations and old, like, Shirley Caesar. And then
you had good parents.
My grandmother, she kept it going. She was like, I control the radio, and what you listen to, I will control.
Yeah.
So, and I've been developing through that. So my music base, my classical music knowledge wasn't too strong, but I understand the connection that it has with people and how music can move and heal, and how it can be, you can express yourself through it. The arts in general.
So when you got here and it's classical music, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you like, you know what? I had no idea that I would love this music, or it's interesting, or it's.
I find it interesting, and I find it very peaceful in a sense, because music without words, I feel like it does something else to you. I feel like it causes you to use your imagination. I used to tell your daughter studies to it. I used to study to it. Like, I would put on Mozart and listen to it in my last year of college just to calm down, because I don't know, I feel like it puts you in a space where you're thinking and you focus more. Like, I can listen to jazz and classical and do it, but coming on to the job, I feel like it's opened up my eyes a little bit more and how classical it relates to everything in a sense.
And now that you get to sort of directly link classical music back to Black people, and it's in our roots, how rewarding is that?
I feel honored. I feel honored to be in the position that I am, that I can help be an advocate and help. I don't want to keep saying bridge that gap, but so that folks know that there's a place for us in classical. There's always been a place. We've been with it since its inception. And classical music has had its issues of inclusion, but as we work towards equity and access for all to be able to come and know that they have a place there, I feel charged with that, and that we're going to get this done. I don't think change takes forever. I think if you're actively working towards something, we can get it done in an adequate amount of time.
So there's still tickets to be had, people. It's Thursday. at 7:30. It is the Dvorak and Price, featuring Alistair Neal as the music director of the New Haven Symphony Orchestra, with guest cellist Oliver Herbert. Tickets range in price from $15 to $74, which is a nice range, because there are people who can easily do the higher end, and there are students who will be like, you know what, I'd like to, or people, not just students, but anybody who is like, you know what, this is how I want to spend a Thursday night. Go get me a $15 ticket and hear some good music for an hour or two, right? And walk into Woosley Hall, because it's a beautiful and interesting space for music, right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
And less than the price of a movie these days, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Just saying.
And dinner.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And
no,
dinner.
you're right. You are absolutely right. And so there's the pre-concert activities, the prelude, a free 30-minute pre-concert talk at Sudler Hall, which is on Wall Street, with NHSO Harmony fellow Kelsey Vanderwall. So if you want to get the appetizer to the main event, check that out. So that's Thursday. There's still tickets available for the dinner pre-concert symphony supper at Union League, so $45. So you got to call the New Haven Symphony.org at 203-787-4282. So as we wrap this conversation up a little bit, what else would you like to say about Thursday, Alistair, in this music and doing this work and continuing to do this work?
Well, I would say I really hope people come and listen to this and get inspired by the whole concert. I think there's the Dvorak and William Tell Overture that we're opening with are two great bookends. But I think above all, to be honest, the honor of performing this music of Florence Price is something that I take very, very seriously. It's brought me a lot of joy in the preparation, and I'm really, really looking forward to making the notes come off the page and inspire people and provoke a conversation. I hope that people will be talking a lot during intermission about what they just heard. And I wish I could be eavesdropping on some of those conversations, because great art should provoke reactions. And I anticipate they'll be overwhelmingly positive. And I view this as part of, as Shah was saying, this is part of a continuum. This is an important step on the way, but it is not a period at the end of the sentence. It's part of a continuing paragraph, a part of a continuing page and a chapter and a book that needs to be written. And I'm just very happy to be part of the writing team.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. So arts and ideas, before we go. I know every year the symphony does some collaborative thing, which you can't ever really talk about, but I know it's coming, and I've enjoyed the last several. So, can you gossip anything a little bit about that?
No, I can't.
Right,
I'm
okay.
not at liberty to say, but it's.
And I know
be good.
a lot of arts and ideas people listen to this show, so I know you can't really.
Yeah, no, we're getting pretty close, but I can't tell you yet. I wish I could,
but it's going to be exciting.
It
I'm
is
sure,
going to be exciting,
because I thought what you did last year was great.
I had such a good time.
Oh
in that
my
concert.
God, that was just high energy. I mean, it was just.
Wasn't that fun?
Yes, that
it was.
Really
it was
good.
a good time.
Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. So, any last words, Shah?
Come out Thursday, but also come out Saturday.
Yes, Saturday at the Stetson Library.
Yes, ma'am.
On Dixwell Avenue.
From 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
We're getting catered from the Orchard Cafe, and it'll be a little bit more intimate. We'll be able to dive into some questions and just get a little perspective. So come out, hear the music,
and it's free.
It's free. It's free 99. So
I love that. Well, thank you two for being here this morning. I enjoyed this conversation. This is a nice lead up to Thursday, and I will be in the audience cheering you on, Alistair, because I love what you're doing over there. People love what you're doing in this city with the symphony, and you really made it fun and popular to go sit in a room full of people and listen to some really good music again.
Thank you, Babz. That's awfully kind of you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Shah.
It's nice to see you, Miss Babz.
All right, Harry, I'm ready to get out of here. So I'll see y'all back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, Harry, I'm ready to get out of here. So I'll see y'all back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.